The rain was relentless, hammering the streets of Seattle like it had a personal vendetta against the city. I sprinted through Pioneer Square, my sneakers slapping wet pavement, heart pounding not just from the run, but from the fight I'd just fled. By the time I ducked into the alley behind the old bookstore, my life was already unraveling, and I didn't even know it. My name's Ethan Caldwell, 24, a graphic designer scraping by in a city that chews up dreamers like me. I'd just left my ex-boyfriend, now Jared, screaming at me in our cramped apartment. His words still burned, "You're nothing without me." I'd grabbed my jacket and bolted, needing air, needing space, needing anything but his voice in my head. The alley was dark, slick with rain, and I leaned against the brick wall, catching my breath, when I heard footsteps. "Ethan," a voice called, low and steady, cutting through the rain like a lifeline. I froze. Nobody knew I'd be here, not Jared, not my friends, nobody. I turned, squinting through the downpour, and there he was, a guy about my age, maybe 25, with deep brown skin and eyes that held a storm of their own. He stepped closer, his leather jacket glistening, and I caught the faintest scent of cedarwood. "You okay?" he asked, his voice softer now, like he already knew the answer. "I'm fine," I lied, wiping rain from my face. "Who are you?" "Malik," he said, offering a half-smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Malik Washington. I saw you run out of that apartment building. Looked like you needed something." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Yeah, a new life. Maybe." I didn't know why I said it, but something about him is calm. His presence made me feel like I could. He stepped closer, and I backed up instinctively, my shoulders hitting the cold brick wall. My pulse spiked. He was close now. Too close. His eyes searching mine like he could see every crack in my armor. "You don't need a new life," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You just need to remember who you are." And then, before I could process it, he pinned me against the wall, not hard, but firm, his hands on either side of my shoulders. My breath caught, and for a second, I thought he might God, I didn't know what, kiss me, yell at me. But instead, he leaned in, his forehead nearly touching mine, and said, "You're enough. Ethan. You hear me? You're enough." Those words hit harder than any fist. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear them until they landed, cracking open something inside me I'd kept locked for years. I stood there, rain soaking through my clothes, staring into Malik's eyes, and felt the world shift. That moment, his hands, his voice, the weight of his words changed everything. I didn't see Malik again for a week, but his words haunted me. "You're enough." I replayed them while sketching logos at my cramped desk, while dodging Jared's calls, while lying awake in my friend Tara's guest room, where I'd crashed after the breakup. Seattle's gray skies mirrored my mood, but something was different. I felt awake, like I'd been sleepwalking through my own life. Tara, 26, with her wild curls and sharper wit, wasn't letting me sulk. "You're brooding again," she said one morning, tossing a muffin at me across her kitchen table. "Spill it. Who's got you all starry-eyed?" "Nobody," I muttered, but my cheeks betrayed me. Tara's grin widened. "Liar. I know that look. Spill, or I'm hiding your sketchbook." So I told her about Malik, about the alley, the rain, the way he'd pinned me against the wall, and said exactly what I needed to hear. Tara leaned back, whistling low. "Damn, Ethan, that's some rom-com shit. You gonna track this guy down, or what?" I didn't know how to answer. Malik hadn't given me a number, a last name beyond Washington, or any clue how to find him. Seattle wasn't small, and I wasn't exactly a private detective. But fate, or maybe just dumb luck, had other plans. That Friday, I was at Pike Place Market, sketching the chaos of vendors and tourists for a freelance gig. The air smelled of fish and fresh flowers, and I was lost in my work when someone bumped my shoulder. My pencil skidded across the page, and I looked up, ready to snap until I saw him. Malik, in a navy sweater, holding a coffee cup and looking as surprised as I felt. Ethan. His smile was warmer this time, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Didn't expect to see you here. Same, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My heart was doing somersaults. You stalking me now? He laughed, a deep, rich sound that made my chest ache. Nah, just grabbing coffee. But maybe it's fate. He nodded at my sketchbook. You're good. That for work? Yeah, freelance stuff. I hesitated, then flipped the book to show him a sketch of the market stalls. His eyes lit up, and for the next hour, we wandered the market together, talking about everything and nothing his job as a social worker. My art. The way Seattle's rain made everything feel like a movie. He was easy to talk to, but there was an edge to him, like he was holding something back. I wanted to ask, but I didn't. Not yet. By the time we parted ways, he'd scribbled his number on a napkin. Call me, he said, his eyes locking onto mine. I mean it. I did. That night, I texted him, and we met up the next day at a dive bar in Capitol Hill. The place was all neon lights and sticky floors, but with Malik across from me, it felt like the only place in the world. We talked until last call, and when he walked me to my bus stop, he brushed his hand against mine. It was barely a touch, but it sent sparks through me. I went home dizzy, wondering what the hell was happening to me. Weeks turned into months, and Malik became a constant in my life. Coffee dates turned into late-night walks along the waterfront, his hand eventually finding mine, our fingers lacing together like they'd always belonged that way. He was different from Jared, where Jared had been loud and controlling. Malik was quiet strength, listening more than he spoke. But when he did, every word mattered. But there was tension, too. Malik was guarded, especially about his past. He'd mentioned growing up in Chicago, or his work helping at-risk youth. But anytime I asked about his family or why he'd moved to Seattle, he'd change the subject. I didn't push out at first. I was too caught up in the way he made me feel, like I was finally stepping into my own skin. One night, we were at his apartment, a cozy place in Fremont cluttered with books and vinyl records. We were sprawled on his couch, half watching a movie, when I finally asked, Malik, why do you keep dodging questions about your past? He stiffened, his arm around me going still. For a long moment, he didn't speak, and I thought I'd ruined everything. Then he sighed, his voice low. It's not you, Ethan. It's complicated. Try me, I said, turning to face him. His eyes were shadowed, and for the first time, I saw fear there. I left Chicago because of my family, he said finally. They didn't take it well when I came out. My dad, he said I was a disgrace. Kicked me out when I was 18. I've been on my own since. My heart sank. I reached for his hand, but he pulled back, just slightly. I'm not telling you this for pity, he said. I don't talk about it because it still hurts. And I don't want it to define me. It doesn't, I said, my voice fierce. It's just part of your story. And I want all of it good. The bad. All of it. He looked at me then. Really looked. And something shifted. He leaned in, kissing me softly at first, then deeper, like he was pouring everything he couldn't say into it. When we pulled apart, he whispered, You make it hard to keep walls up, Ethan. Good, I said, grinning. I'm stubborn like that. But life doesn't let you stay in those perfect moments. Trouble was brewing, and I should have seen it coming. Jared had been quiet since the breakup, but he wasn't gone. I started getting texts from unknown numbers, vague, threatening messages like you can't just walk away. I ignored them, figuring it was Jared trying to mess with me. But they kept coming, growing darker. You'll regret this. I didn't tell Malik at first. I didn't want to drag him into my mess. But one night, when we were walking through Belltown, I caught a glimpse of someone watching us from across the street. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving too fast to be sure. My stomach twisted. "Ethan, what's wrong?" Malik asked, his hand tightening on mine. "Nothing," I lied, but my voice shook. He stopped walking, turning me to face him. "Don't do that," he said. "Don't shut me out." So I told him about Jared, the texts, the figure in the shadows. Malik's jaw clenched, his eyes hardening. "You're not dealing with this alone," he said. "We'll figure it out. Together." The next day, he insisted on meeting Tara, who'd become my unofficial bodyguard. The three of us sat in a coffee shop, hashing out a plan. Tara, ever practical, suggested I block the numbers and report Jared to the police. Malik was quieter, but his intensity was palpable. "If he comes near you," he said, "he'll have to go through me." I wanted to believe it would be that simple, but Jared wasn't the type to back down. And I was right. A week later, I came home to find my apartment door ajar, my sketchbooks torn apart, and a note scrawled on my desk, "You can't hide." Panic clawed at me, but I called Malik first. He was there in 20 minutes, pulling me into his arms as I shook. "You're staying with me," he said. "No room for argument. And we're ending this." Malik's apartment became my safe haven, but the fear lingered. We reported the break-in, but the police said there wasn't enough evidence to pin it on Jared. I felt like I was unraveling, but Malik was my anchor. He'd hold me at night, whispering that I was safe, that we'd get through this. And slowly, I started to believe him. One evening, we were walking through a park near his place, the cherry blossoms in full bloom. The air was warm, the sky painted with sunset, and for a moment, everything felt right. Malik stopped suddenly, pulling me close. "Ethan," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what's coming, but I know I want you in my life. No matter what." I looked up at him, my heart swelling. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, and I meant it. We kissed under the blossoms, and for the first time, I felt like I could breathe. But that night, everything changed. We were back at Malik's, cooking dinner, when the doorbell rang. Malik frowned, checking his phone. "I'm not expecting anyone," he said, heading to the door. I followed, my gut screaming that something was wrong. It was Jared. He stood in the hallway, eyes wild, a knife glinting in his hand. "You thought you could just leave me," he snarled, stepping forward. Malik moved faster than I could process, shoving me behind him. "Get out," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Now." Jared lunged, but Malik was ready. He grabbed Jared's wrist, twisting until the knife clattered to the floor. I scrambled for my phone, dialing 911 as Malik pinned Jared against the wall. "You're done," Malik said, his voice shaking with rage. "You don't get to hurt him anymore." The police arrived minutes later, cuffing Jared as he screamed obscenities. I was shaking, but Malik never let go of my hand. When it was over, he pulled me into his arms, and I broke down, sobbing into his chest. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I've got you." Months later, Jared was behind bars, and I was rebuilding my life. Malik and I moved in together, turning his cluttered apartment into our home. It wasn't perfect. There were still nights I woke up scared. Still moments Malik's past made him pull away, but we faced it together. One evening, we sat on our balcony, watching the city lights. Malik took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. "You changed everything," he said softly. "That night in the alley, I was just trying to help. But you made me want to be better." I leaned against him, my heart full. "You saved me," I said. "Not just from Jared. From myself." He kissed my forehead, and we sat there, wrapped in each other, the weight of the past fading against the promise of our future. I'd been caught off guard, pinned against a wall, and given the one thing I'd never dared hope for, a love that made me feel enough.